Howdy do, folks. It is time to check out, see what's happening with Joe's boys. Sorry about not being able to comment since I set these for children's books. I was wondering when that was going to happen. Bummer. Please, whenever it goes up, I tried to upload it already and said there was an error. But I say a lot in my other book, if y'all will take a gander at that before I started reading On the Banks of Plum Creek. Okay, let's get back to where we were. I want to speak of that, and I know you will forgive what seems hard because I do most heartily sympathize with you, said Mrs. Joe, glad to have her say. Yes, do talk about Daisy. I think of nothing but leaving and losing her. I have no hope. I suppose it's too much to ask, only I can't help loving her wherever I am, cried Nat with a mixture of defiance and despair in his face that rather startled Mrs. Joe. Listen to me, and I'll try to give you both comfort and good advice. We all know that Daisy is fond of you, but her mother objects, and being a good girl, she tries to obey. Young people think they can never change, but they do in the most wonderful manner, and very few die of broken hearts. Mrs. Joe smiled as she remembered another boy whom she had once tried to comfort and then went soberly on, while Nat listened as if his fate hung upon her lips. One of two things will happen. You will find someone else to love, or better still, be so busy and happy in your music that you will be willing to wait for a time to settle the matter for you both. Daisy will perhaps forget when you are gone and be glad you are only friends. At any rate, it's much wiser to have no promises made than both are free, and in a year or two may meet to laugh over the little romance nipped in the bud. Do you honestly think that? Asked Nat, looking at her so keenly that the truth had to come, for all his heart was in those frank blue eyes of his. No, I don't, answered Mrs. Joe. Then if you were in my place, what would you do? He added, and with a tone of command never heard in his gentle voice before. Bless me, the boy is in dead earnest, and I shall forget prudence and sympathy, I'm afraid, thought Mrs. Joe, surprised and pleased by the unexpected manliness Nat showed. I'll tell you what I should do. I'd say to myself, I'll prove that my love is strong and faithful and make Daisy's mother proud to give her to me by being not only a good musician but an excellent man, and so command respect and confidence. This I will try for, and if I fail, I shall be better for the effort and find comfort in the thought that I did my best for her sake. That is what I meant to do, but I wanted a word of hope to give me courage, cried Nat, firing up as if the smoldering spark was set ablaze by a breath of encouragement. Other fellows, poorer and stupider than I, have done great things and come to honor. Why may not I, though I'm nothing now? I know Mrs. Brooke remembers what I came from, but my father was honest, though everything went wrong. And I have nothing to be ashamed of, though I was a charity boy. I never will be ashamed of my people or myself, and I'll make other folks respect me if I can. Good, that's the right spirit, Nat. Hold on to it and make yourself a man. No one will be quicker to see and admire the brave work than my sister Meg. She does not despise your poverty or your past. But mothers are very tender over their daughters, and we Marches, though we have been poor, are, I confess, a little proud of our good family. We don't care for money, but a long line of virtuous ancestors is something to desire and be proud of. Well, the Blakes are a good lot. I looked them up, and not one of them was ever in prison, hanged, or disgraced in any way. We used to be rich and honored years ago, but we've died out and got poor, and Father was a street musician rather than beg. And I'll be one again before I'll do mean things some men do and pass muster. Nat was so excited that Mrs. Joe indulged in a laugh to calm him, and both went on more quietly. I told my sister all that, and it pleased her. I'm sure if you do well these next few years that she will relent, and I will be happily settled. Unless that wonderful change, which you don't believe possible, should occur. Now cheer up. Don't be like a daisical and blue. Say goodbye cheerfully and bravely. Show a manly front and leave a pleasant memory behind you. We all wish you well and hope much for you. Write to me every week and I'll send a good gossipy answer. Be careful what you write to Daisy. Don't gush or wail, for Sister Meg will see the letters. And you can help your cause very much by sending sensible, cheery accounts of your life to us all. I will. It looks brighter and better already, and I won't lose my one comfort by any fault of my own. Thank you so much, Mother Bear, for taking my side. I felt so ungrateful and mean and crushed when I thought you all considered me a sneak who had no business to love such a precious girl as Daisy. No one said anything, but I knew how you felt, and that Mr. Laurie sent me off partly to get me out of the way. Oh dear, life is pretty tough sometimes, isn't it? And Nat took his head in both hands as if it ached with the confusion of hopes, fears, passions, and plans that proved boyhood was past and manhood had begun. Very tough, but it is that struggle with obstacles which does us good. Things have been made easy for you in many ways, but no one can do everything. You must paddle your own canoe now and learn to avoid the rapids and steer straight to the port you want to reach. I don't know just what your temptations will be, for you have no bad habits, and seem to love music so well nothing can lure you from it. I only hope you won't work too hard. I feel as if I could work like a horse. I'm so eager to get on, but I'll take care. Can't waste time being sick, and you've given me doses enough to keep me all right, I guess. Nat laughed as he remembered the book of directions Mrs. Joe had written for him to consult on all occasions. She immediately added some verbal ones on the subject of foreign messes, and having mounted one of her pet hobbies, was in full gallop when Emil was seen strolling about on the roof of the old house, that being his favorite promenade, for there he could fancy himself walking the deck with only blue sky and fresh air about him. I want a word with the Commodore, and up there we shall be nice and quiet. Go and play to Daisy. It will put her to sleep and do you both good. Sit in the porch so I can keep an eye on you, as I promised. And with a motherly pat on the shoulder, Mrs. Joe left Nat to his delightful task and briskly ascended to the housetop. Not up the trellis as of old, but by means of the stairs inside. Emerging on the platform, she found Emil cutting his initials afresh in the woodwork and singing pull for the shore, like the tuneful mariner he was. Come aboard and make yourself at home, Auntie, he said with a playful salute. I'm just leaving a PPC in the old place, so when you fly up here for refuge, you'll remember me. Oh, my dear, I'm not likely to forget you. It doesn't need EBH cut on all the trees and railings to remind me of my sailor boy. And Mrs. Joe took the seat nearest the blue figure astride the balustrade, not quite sure how to begin the little sermon she wanted to preach. Well, you don't pipe your eye and look squally when I sheer off as you used to, and that's a comfort. I like to leave port in fair weather and have a jolly send-off all around, especially this time. It will be a year or more before we drop anchor here again, answered Emil, pushing his cap back and glancing about him as if he loved old Plum and would be sorry never to see it any more. You have salt water enough without my adding to it. I'm going to be quite a Spartan mother and send my sons to battle with no wailing, only the command. With your shield or on it, said Mrs. Joe cheerfully, adding after a pause, I often wish I could go too, and someday I will when you are captain and have a ship of your own, as I've no doubt you will, before long with Uncle Herman to push you on. When I do, I'll christen her the Jolly Joe and take you as first mate. And I'd be a proud man to carry you round the world you've wanted to see so long and never could, answered Emil, caught at once by this splendid vision. I'll make my first voyage with you and enjoy myself immensely in spite of seasickness and all the stormy winds that blow. I've always thought I'd like to see a wreck, a nice safe one, with all saved after great danger and heroic deeds, while we clung like Mr. Pilcotty to main-top jibs and lee scuppers. No wrecks yet, ma'am, but we'll try to accommodate customers. Captain says I'm a lucky dog and bring fair weather, so we'll save the dirty weather for you if you want it, laughed Emil, digging at the ship in full sail, which he was adding to his design. Thanks, I hope you will. This long voyage will give you new experiences, and being an officer, you will have new duties and responsibilities. Are you ready for them? You take everything so gaily. I've been wondering if you realize that now you will have not only to obey but to command also, and power is a dangerous thing. Be careful you don't abuse it or let it make a tyrant of you. Right you are, ma'am. I've seen plenty of that and have got my bearings pretty well, I guess. I shan't have very wide swing with Peters over me, but I'll see that the boys don't get abused when he's bowsed up his jib. No right to speak before, but now I won't stand it. That sounds mysteriously awful. Could I ask what nautical torture bowsing jibs is? Asked Mrs. Joe in a tone of deep interest. Getting drunk. Peters can hold more grog than any man I ever saw. He keeps right side up, but is as savage as a norther, and makes things lively all round. I've seen him knock a fellow down with a belaying pin and couldn't lend a hand. Better luck now, I hope. And Emil frowned, as if already trod the quarter deck, lord of all he surveyed. Don't get into trouble, for even Uncle Herman's favor won't cover insubordination, you know. You've proved yourself a good sailor. Now be a good officer, which is a harder thing, I fancy. It takes a fine character to rule justly and kindly. You'll have to put by your boyish ways and remember your dignity. That will be excellent training for you, Emil, and sober you down a bit. No more skylarking except here, so mind your ways and do honor to your buttons, said Mrs. Joe, tapping one of the very bright brass ones that ornamented the new suit Emil was so proud of. I'll do my best. I know my time for skirmshander, and then in parentheses it says chafe, is over, and I must steer a straighter course, but don't you fear. Jack ashore is a very different craft from what he is with blue water under his keel. I had a long talk with Uncle last night and got my orders. I won't forget him, nor all I owe him. As for you, I'll name my first ship, as I say, and have your bust for the figurehead. See if I don't. And Emil gave his aunt a hearty kiss to seal the vow, which proceeding much amused Nat, playing softly in the porch of the Dovecote. You do me proud, Captain, but dear, I want to say one thing, and then I'm done, for you don't need much advice of mine, after my good man has spoken. I read somewhere that every inch of rope used in the British Navy has a strand of red in it. So that wherever a bit of it is found, it is known. That is the text of my little sermon to you. Virtue, which means honor, honesty, courage, and all that makes character, is the red thread that marks a good man wherever he is. Keep that always and everywhere, so that even if wrecked by misfortune, that sign shall still be found and recognized. Yours is a rough life, and your mate's not all we could wish, but you can be a gentleman in the true sense of the word. And no matter what happens to your body, keep your soul clean.